Christ alone my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of
I'm a part of the family of love.
I've been washed in the fountain, cleansed by His blood. Joiners with Jesus as we travel this side, for I'm part of the family of God.
Well, a very warm and special welcome to the Loud Cry Surge, and this is the DLW Studios production. My name is Pastor Roger Kisto, and I'm really happy, tired but happy. The energy is just building as the lights go on, the camera is on you. You just get all the energy coming and surging, and that's why we are the Loud Cry Surge. I trust that you had a good week. It seems as though the days are flying faster than we could even imagine. It is going by so quickly. But the Sabbath brings a level of resolve, a rest and recluse. Your mind is now thrown back, way back in creation, when you look around and see all the beauties in spite of this sin-cursed earth. God still has preserved some stuff for us to enjoy even in this time in which we are living. So welcome, and we just ask as usual that you tell someone that we are on the air. We are again hitting families. It seems as though the more we try to wrap it up, it just opens and emblazons before us. No fault of ours, because we understand as we live in these days, just as the Bible says, we're going to have some problems, and families are not going to get away unscathed, because Satan knows families really represent what God has in His family in the kingdom of God. So welcome again, and we just want to bless you tonight. And I have some special people. I will introduce them in a bit, in a short, but I want to remind you of our weekly broadcasts and programs. Tuesday evenings, as usual, you have that program with me. I just forget the name already. Flashpoint. Thank you so much. And Wednesday is Book of the Month. We're looking at Christ Object Lessons with Pastor Kern Charles, and on Thursdays we have our Health Nuggets with Sister Anella. Still working on getting it tight. I think by this week we'll get it back together. And if you go to our screen, as it's there before you, these are the places that you could connect with us: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Periscope, and of course you could email us. Some people have been requesting our PayPal account. We're still working on that, but you want to generate and help finance these programs. It takes a tidy sum, but it's all sacrificial. So we are encouraging you to put aside that amount. Do not go back and spend it. If you have covenanted to the Lord, leave it in that little box in the corner, and at the right time God will open up providences so you can get it to the Loud Cry Surge. If you love this program, if you love the work of God, if you are part of this Loud Cry team globally giving the message, then you need to put your money where your love is, if I said that correctly. Yeah, so I want to introduce no strangers again. They have seemed to become now part of this family life set. Young couple, just 4 years married. No strangers again, Pastor Kern and Sister Onella. Welcome.
Happy Sabbath, everyone.
Happy Sabbath.
Welcome. And how has been your week?
This week was a lot easier than the last.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Kern, how was your week?
I could say that, but you should know all too well that the week of a minister is never an easy one.
Yeah.
It's never an easy one.
Someone said before we were off, while we were off air, that you seem to be matching, and Onella responded that that's deliberate. Yeah,
Yes, it's very deliberate.
So who calls the shots? I would imagine Onella.
Yeah, she does,
Okay.
and I am very happy to follow.
Okay, I was wondering. If you had only said yes, I would have wondered a lot of things. Yeah, so we want to look at some stuff tonight, and we're going to just free fall. We're going to go cold because there are a lot of issues that we see. I want to touch a little bit on non-physical violence. and a hot topic that has been circulating outside of the area of divorce, but that of recovering from infidelity.
Yes.
I know that we are not the end all and experts in this area, but I think we have enough to share
That's right.
Amen.
that we can bless some life out there.
Amen.
And I want to touch as well a little bit on love and submission. We looked at that. So this is like an overview, but we are also extending, and we do not know where it will end. And you know, I could share this with you. One of the reasons why I started the family series is because, you know, you minister at your congregation or different places. People are saying amen, they're excited. But for the message now to become part of your experience, when you go home Sabbath afternoon, Sabbath evening, and then you as it were, you dread to sit around the table again, because as much as Pastor Kisto, Pastor Kern, Sister Onella giving hard truths, excited, but it is not resonating in your experience, so that you have a drop off, not so much in attendance, people are still coming, but you have a drop off in energy, because the family is where the action is. And I think our deliberation here is just, and we can never get too much of family, and it's not a program just to give instruction. We are sharing, because we too are part of families and we are learning. So I want to tell you to hold on a little bit. We're going to just take a short break, just catch our breath a little bit, drink a little liquid to get our throats clear, and we're coming back hard, full speed, looking at the family, gathering our families before the days of wrath. Stay with us. We want to welcome you back to the Loud Cry Surge, and as we mentioned before the break, we want to look at some stuff in a free fall way, speaking it real, and I think people really appreciate the real programs. Tonight, what's on my mind is that of abuse, and we have become accustomed to the violence, violence against women. There are so many NGOs and units that have been set up as a result. And this is not a new thing. This could go back to biblical times, violence against women. It has become more prominent. There's also violence against men as well. Physical violence, that's a no-no. That's not loving your neighbor as you would love yourself, wanting to be treated. That's a basic. But there's a subtle type of abuse that is not really recognized. The person may not be able to put their finger upon it. I just would like Brother Devon to just hit the screen so I could put up these. It's not exhaustive, there may be more. But I have found that within homes, either you have a combination of this set or you have them singularly. So you have emotional abuse, you have psychological abuse, you have the social abuse, which is really isolation, and we will talk to them in a while. And then you have economic abuse. So I want to invite my guests, hosts, co-hosts, Elder Kern and his wife, if they want to sound off on anything, any of the four, and then we will talk about it generally. We look at some statistics, but to our viewers, we are looking at the area of abuse, not non-physical abuse, which is even more deadly and is also not recognized to the keen person. They might be able to see it, but they cannot categorize it because it is so subtle. So you want to share on any one of the four: emotional, psychological, social, economic, and we will talk to that now.
Out of the four, right now, social, the isolation aspect, being newly married and also being exposed to married couples who tend to experience this one. Piggybacking on what we mentioned in some of the previous programs when we talked about not losing your individuality when you enter the marriage union. Because some persons would have not asked the questions that they needed to, and they may have ignored red flags or thought that the rainbows and the butterflies would have been able, to carry them through these times. The subtlety of socially isolating someone, it happens both ways. There's this sort of territorial mentality that is developed in the person based on their own situation, and they now sort of play the victim card to get you to exclude family events, exclude friends and the things you usually would have done interacting with your family on a regular basis. Then because of the subtle way they manipulate you into doing it, you start to neglect these actions that you would have regularly practiced for the sake of being there for the person. And the moment you try to engage in it again, that is when you experience sort of a flare, sort of a disconnection, sort of an attack, saying things like, so you don't want to spend time with your family? You're married to me, you're not married to them. And when you invite them, well, come along, they either stay in the car and sleep, or they just say, no, you go ahead, man, I will stay home by myself. It's alright that you have your family. These kind of remarks, and it's really a form of abuse, because what it does is that it creates this bubble where you are now deprived of family interactions, which could actually help you through some difficult times in your marriage. But when you lose that connection with friends, with families, with even your brethren, for the sake of you and me against the world, and then there's a disconnect apparent in the relationship, you find yourself burying feelings, and then it leaves room for some of these other issues to come up, because then finances will step in, So I think that one, because it's not physical abuse, but it's this subtle form of closing you off from others to have you for myself. I think there's a disadvantage in that, because social relations help us to cope during difficult times. And I don't think we should lose it, and I don't think that we should give in to it at all, because it actually paves the way for other types of abuse to seep in.
So I like your very succinct and complete answer. But Elder Kern, as a leader, as a minister, you're a shepherd of the flock. Is this easily identifiable? What do you think are some of the signs that you see couples are using the isolation type of social abuse against each other? And this one as well, it is not relegated to the male. It could also be the female as well,
That
who
is-
are many cases. Sisters, they do that. You know, it's all about me. It's, you know, you're married to me, and you're not spending time with your family. That's now the
go-to remark.
yes, the card that you play. You know, what about family? But it's an whole isolation. And before you answer, we want our audience to understand that these things are not readily discernible. It is subtle. Because who would not want to represent their family? Who would not want to stay with their family? Who would not now want to have the clause, I left and now I'm cleaving with you? This is a new company that we would have formed. And do you find that it is easily recognizable? And how do you treat with it at your congregation?
Well,
and I hope that I'm not interfering with anybody.
The thing is, let's first qualify the term abuse. It's really abuse, which really would mean that it's not the correct use of the thing.
Good.
That is abuse. And we are sociable beings, very social beings, and no one ought to feel that disconnection, especially when it comes under the title of marriage, that social disconnection. As you said, the sisters are by no means guiltless in this affair, and the thing is that is not easy to recognize. As you said, one might be able to say that is happening, but to really qualify it, they may not be able to really put the terms together to know that this is exactly what is being said, because that type of social abuse is usually really covered up under good talk. You understand? It's really covered up under good talk. You know, you would hear men saying things like, well, you know, sweetheart, you didn't spend any time with me, or things like that. The ladies will say the same, or, you know, you're robbing the family. You're always going out, you have no time for me anymore. Now that you have me in your arms, you're just gone again, and all these types of things. And it's really a subtle form of manipulation to really get that person to really channel them into your mindset. You want them for yourself. Now, nothing is wrong with wanting your wife or your husband
there's the healthy
for yourself, but every area of the human machinery must be developed, including our capabilities to be social with each other. So
Yes.
spending time with friends, when you met that person had friends, and therefore,
Exactly.
you know, the marriage does not, of course, if the friendship is bad, then that's something else.
That's something to be considered.
That's
yes.
something else. But marriage does not, or should not, really disconnect one from his or her friends. It shouldn't do that. It shouldn't cut off family members. It shouldn't put your mother-in-law in check. It shouldn't do these things. These things shouldn't happen. So, and of course, like you put on the screen there, you have only put up 4. By no means that is exhaustive.
No, it's not.
It's not at all, because then there is the economic abuse and psychological abuse and what have you. These things are very serious. And lastly, I sometimes see these things in church. I see these things in church. You know, you can look at a couple and you can tell that they are really having some problems. When the church calls for social events, you can see you know, wives coming with the children, the father isn't there.
Yeah.
You know, the father brings his
Children.
daughters or his sons or
Yeah.
both. The wife isn't there because she has to stay home, and you know, things. And that really speaks to the issue of something happening in the home.
Yeah.
And you know, what happens in the home would obviously manifest itself outside in the open
Yes.
sometime. And
Yes.
we see it. I see it in church. Not necessarily my church, but you know, in church.
Well,
it happens a lot.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
happens a lot.
Yeah, you're playing it safe there. But you mentioned economic abuse, and you know, a classic example is, especially in a single income home,
Wow.
you have the brother, the man, Well, and you know, we have various situations. We have situations where the wife is now working, but more so with the men. So you have the classic example of going to the grocery store, and the woman knows exactly what the house needs. We need to give them that.
That's right.
I am afraid of men. I am afraid of men who like to go to the market and so on. I say that publicly.
Well, I agree with you because I don't go.
I mean,
and if I'm going, it's to accompany my wife, and she just call the shots. I leave that as it is.
Yes, you're right. You know, I don't have a problem per se if the man decides to go and, you know, do it and so on. But when he is now, anyway, let me not go there. Let me stay safe. Now, the economic abuse. You are at the grocery store and the man is just very, very onto you, hovering over you. That as you literally put something in the basket, he takes it back out. He queries the price, he queries the weight, he queries the brand, and I mean, it may seem comical. It may not happen in that way, but as a situation. So therefore, the woman feels as though less than a person. Now, the thing is, things are changing. Women are now coming out, but there still are those women who want to hold to the area of submission as another subject, and thinks that she grows to believe that the man is doing the right thing, but she's abused. She's now put at a place where she cannot think, cannot make decisions. She resigns herself to just being just there for you.
You know, Elder Kisto, what you're saying there is reality, and we want to keep it very real with our audience.
Yeah.
And let me share a real example. For instance, myself and Nella. Now, I will tell you frankly, I really do not enjoy going to the grocery, especially with Nella. And
Wait.
yeah, let's be very real. I do not really enjoy that. But now things have changed. Things have changed because I understand better now. I know more now. So I have made a complete turn. In fact, my wife would either tell me, well, you know, come along, or if she doesn't want me, you know, to accompany her, she say, well, you know, you stay and relax, or what have you. Nella likes to go. She enjoys that a lot. She really likes that.
Read the labels and
you know, men are different. We think differently. If we are told to go and get lettuce, we see the lettuce, we take the lettuce,
Straight line.
go to the cashier
Yeah.
with it, and we cash that lettuce. It doesn't happen that way with women. It doesn't work that way at all. So many times, and this, mind you, and we are keeping it real, this has, sometimes I would find myself, you know, there with my wife, and we are arguing about this, and I say, but wait, we shouldn't really be arguing about this. She likes this thing, but I don't like it. But it's bringing something in the relationship that really shouldn't be there. So what I have started doing is, when my wife has to go to the grocery, I accompany her. I go with her. I do not really, you know, accompany her as though I'm not there. I make myself present. Whatever she wants, that's what I have to go with, because I've learned something. Happy wife, happy life. And and therefore, you would only be unhappy man when the night gets cold. You would be very unhappy. So, and that's not just all the reason. I love my wife, and I would like to see her happy. And if her happiness has to be gained by me reforming my ways, because I was once single, and this is the way I used to do things. I would not go and just, you know, spend hours in the grocery. I go and I get what I want and I go out. I realize now that I cannot bring that into this relationship and try to beat my wife into becoming just like me. No. So I have put pause on that. I'm checking it closely. I will accompany my wife. She says she wants this. Look, sweetheart, you go ahead. Whatever you want, just get it. And I'm asking questions. Now, what you think about this? I'm making conversation.
So
I'm making I'm putting some some honey in my relationship.
So you have shown up to the grocery. It's not like you just you say to come and I'm there. I'm going to push the card wherever you want me, and you're on your phone checking your messages. You are there. You are present.
I am showing interest.
All right.
I am showing
Okay, so
interest.
he is speaking to the aspect of being supportive and making the necessary compromises in order to get the best result. But you know, in light of the question at hand relative to the economic abuse, what we don't see is that based on the blueprint, based on what we read in the book Adventist Home by Sister White, that tells us that it is the role of the wife to prepare good meals and place it before her family. It's
Yes.
the role of the wife to take care of that aspect in nurturing, where the husband provides for her to be able to be facilitated to perform that duty. When she feels infringed in that regard, whether it's because he thinks he has an opinion or not, if she's interested in taking care of a home, because there are a lot of mothers, right, and there are a lot of women, they may not be mothers, but there are a lot of women who are passionate about the food that they prepare, especially for those of us who are in the field of medical missionary work. We are very attached to label reading and knowing what ingredients we are using, what substitutions we can use to give the best possible nutrition to the household. So therefore, it's like a woman choosing the curtains for a home, and then the man comes and says, you know, my mother taught me how to put away a home, and he's like, so I'm like, well, if you want to fix the curtain, I will go and fix the car. And then all of a sudden, you're reversing God's order. So the abusive aspect of it is that the man doesn't see that he is actually not hurting her, you know, but he is diminishing her zeal to perform her duties, because this is her duty. And if you, for some other reason, you may have the money, but you have X amount and you tell her only use this amount, and you know you have it, but because you are quote unquote the man, the one with the power, the one providing the money, you now want to say how that money should be spent. All of these subtleties may not be a deliberate act on the part of Christian men, but it's an action that occurs in the home, in Christian home, in churches, and even to the world at large.
You know, I just want to pause you there, because many times, and it has, you know, the subject is so broad and we just barely touching it.
Yes.
But as you mentioned there, that the Christian man may not know that he's doing this. He may not be aware. The wife may not respond in a negative way or even in a positive way. She may just accept it that that's how it should be. And then now he would have grown with a type of way, and that's how he thinks that it should be. His upbringing, this is what he saw. So a lot of these things now need to be aired and opened in
And
churches,
addressed.
and as soon as it is addressed, trust me,
Yes.
you will see people starting to say, oh,
yes.
this is what has been happening to me.
Yes.
But that type of abuse is terrible. I want to just share some things as well, because we did not touch emotional abuse, and many people are and so this is an abuse that is worse than the physical abuse. That could be healed. A broken arm could be fixed in a flash. But when you are scarred now, it now disenfranchises you to perform your duty, whether male or female. So I want to recognize as well, somebody came on tonight, Hadassah, and we just want to say greetings to you and all those who just joined us. This is the Loud Cry Surge for first timers. Glad to have you with us. But if you're not married as yet, this is for you. I'm going to go through this list quickly. If you're not married as yet, because abuse in marriage, and I'm speaking about non-physical abuse, is just as bad as somebody banging you over. All right, do you feel that something is wrong with your relationship, but you do not know how to describe it? You know, you get that gut feeling something is wrong, but I can't touch it. Do you feel that your date does not value your thoughts or feelings? Will he or she do anything to win an argument, such as put you down, threaten, or intimidate you? Does your date get angry and jealous if you talk to someone else? And are you accused of cheating, however often? Do you feel that you cannot do anything right in your date's eyes? Are you told that no one else would ever want you? Do you feel like you have to account for your time? You have to now make records. When you try to talk to your date about problems, does he or she call you names? And if you want to spend money, does your date try to tell you how to manage your finances? And it goes on. The list is long. Probably we'll get it up during the show some later on.
These are critically
Critical.
very, very important.
So before people get married, we looked at that, these premarital issues, what we should talk about. But these are things that I would advise somebody to to very early see if it is so, and if there is no result quickly, they should bolt.
You know, it's what we mentioned about the red flags. Most times the courtship period is the time that we are overwhelmed with most of our emotions.
Yeah.
But based on the word of God, it says that it takes more than deciding whether or not you and the person loves each other. Because the fact that we are in a relationship means we have been attracted, we do see something in each other. So therefore, that is not the $1 million question to be asked, because we already there. So if we were to come away from the butterflies for a moment and ask those questions, then we could prevent plenty heartache. You know, we are only married for 4 years, but these are some of the questions we had. These 2 books, I brought it here for the audience specifically. It's called Child Guidance and The Adventist Home.
Must read.
I give these as gifts to couples who are talking about marriage, and even it was given to me as a gift when people heard I was engaged. And it is so detailed, Elder, like all the questions you just brought. Those questions are there in the beginning, but people don't see it, or they choose to ignore it, and it actually paves the way for these subtle abuses to come in. Because when you do not address the issue that you are evidently seeing, then it's only a matter of time. All those bottled feelings, all those bottled emotions, it will snap, and people get their marriage annulled in 3 months, 6 months, some days. You know, so.
Whoa.
Yeah, these things are that list there. Everyone should have one and really check off these things, because you cannot just pass these pointers by. You cannot do that, because they are critically important as it relates to joining your hand in marriage with someone else. These things are little telltale signs.
Yes.
Right? Telltale signs of where, you know, the marriage could go, if you should so get into that type of covenant relationship.
I want to say hi to my friend there, Samuel Juguna Murithini from Kenya. He says happy Sabbath from Kenya and from the Kenyan brethren. This was the brother that was in a terrible accident. Thank God he was in one of these matatus, which is like what we call our small, our mini buses. And out of the 13 people, like 8 died. Yeah, so he is a survivor. So blessings to you, brother Samuel. Grace and peace unto you. So I want to shift gears again as just before we take the break. Just go back to the screen and look at this thought here. Reservations as good Christians. These are some of the reservations that Christians have when it comes to making a decision in the marital union because they are being abused. One is, we should not go to law against our brothers. Yeah, hence, even where the law of the land could help to protect us from the violence or even assaults we are experiencing, we deny ourselves that protection. And I know we have all these homes for battered women, even Christian women now, and
we are not exempt at all.
Not exempt. I'm speaking about Christianity here. We're speaking about the world, you know, within Christianity. I just want to go to this here, and you know, sometimes it's not got to shed your dirty linen, but it is out there. It is not known whether the problem of spousal abuse among members of the Seventh Adventist Church has grown in the last 20 years, but it is known, and this is a research done by the Adventist Review, that spouse abuse has been documented as a major problem among us. Seventh Adventist Church leaders first began officially expressing concern about this issue in the early 90s. In 95, at the 56th General Conference, church administrators cited abuse as one of the 6 major issues confronting the world church. So we're not exempt because we have a human heart, and the heart is deceitful above all things. But some of the issues where help could be sought, people are being abused, probably non-violently, but they do not want to talk, because could you imagine, my wife is coming to tell you all, you know, my husband has his purse strings tied so tight that I can't get a dime. So she wants to protect me, but at the same time she's abused. It is affecting her and so on. Let me ask you finally, more so Elder Kern, what do you see as a short-term solution to the individual that you notice, or maybe is afraid to come to you, when you see this evident before you that abuse of some sort is taking place in our family?
Well, okay, so this is really a tough, really a tough, that's a really tough question. And firstly, as a minister, when you see these things, and you somewhat size people up. You know who you can approach, and then there are those who you really have to spend some time praying, asking God how to approach, because one of the things that you do not want to do is to get people to go back into a cocoon. So you really need to talk to God and ask God to to open a way for you to get in, because that non-violent abuse can be really terrible.
Yeah.
In fact, there is a couple that I know right now that is really undergoing some challenges as far as that non-violent abuse is concerned, and I've been visiting with them very often, and it's getting worse. It's getting worse. And the sister, she's not one who would really crack open easily. So you really have to create a lengthy conversation before you could get her to even smile. So it all depends on who you are dealing with, and this is where we have to be like David now as ministers and move in and out of the people and really get to know your people, those who you are dealing with, get to know them so that you will have the right approach. So there is no specific answer, there is no one route answer to that question. It all depends on who you are dealing with.
Yeah, and I guess the level of trust as well
has
to be built.
That's a very important factor.
But I want to share this just before we close up this segment. And one of the problems that I have found, even as a minister, dealing with good Christians in these relationships, is the Bible then becomes the tool for even destroying them more. And I said that in the context of, for example, this thought: our body no longer belongs to us but to our husband. What right do we therefore have to object to his treatment of it or treatment of us? Understand what they are saying?
Yes.
This is in the context of 1 Peter 3:1. Look at it now.
That's right.
Our body, let's go back to the screen, no longer belongs to us but to our husband. That's from a wife, as wife spousal perspective. So then she asked, what right do we have therefore to object to his treatment of us? So you see that in places like India, throwing some type of solution, I can't remember the name, acid, what we call acid here. It's a regular thing. It's a normal thing, and many women have subjected themselves to that. But that's on the level of physical violence. But on the area of non-physical violence, it is easier to subject, because you will boast as a wife that he's not raising his hand against me. You boast, if it's one thing, I know he doesn't raise his hand to me, but the emotional stressors and stresses that seems beyond bearing. So I want to talk to our people out there that there are different types of abuses, and we need to become familiar with it, because it could be in your household you are experiencing some type of abuse. Your husband is loving, he's a good leader at the church, but he does things that really cause you stresses and so on. So let's get a final thought, because we're going to break down.
Marriage is one of the schools that you would never graduate from.
Yeah, classic.
You would never graduate from that. And I am saying that from the point of view of learning, being married, because Nella is a real bundle, a bundle of joy sometimes. And I am happy for that, because that too is helping mold and chisel off some bad edges that needs to be worked on in me. Before I got married to Nella, I knew that Nella was really a strong person. She has a very strong personality. So I knew exactly what I was getting myself into, and I knew that she loved the Lord dearly, and therefore she has a heart of flesh. She has a heart of flesh. So as bold as a lion as she may appear at times, she's really, really a sweetheart. Sometimes I love her dearly, but one must understand in the marital institution that these challenges would become more and more prevalent. And husbands, especially, I must warn husbands because, from a biblical point of view, if ever a marriage should be dissolved, I am going to put my hand on the man first. I am going to put my hand on, because he holds really, in his hand there is power to really make that thing work again. Except his wife says, listen, you could reach Mars and come back. Right? I'm not interested. Until that time, that marriage can be saved, it can be salvaged. So husbands ought to love their wives dearly, and most times if we listen to our wives, things will be well with us. I am telling you that firsthand.
And praise the Lord. I tell you, we're going to leave it right there. For now, we're going to take a short break, come right back, listen to some music. Very, very interesting conversation. We are looking at the area, or have looked at the area to some degree, that of non-physical violence, and we want to appeal to you, viewer, if you are experiencing that, do not let the Bible be your tool to your own destruction. Talk about it, get some consecrated leader, speak to him, and there are many different ways to talk to him. Even give us a call, we'll be willing to be at your assistance. So this is the Loud Cry Surge. Be back in about 3 to 5 minutes, but don't go anywhere. But in the meantime, tell somebody that we are live and you need to live the experience with us. Right, so we want to welcome you back to the Loud Cry Surge. We have been having a wonderful time. If you joined us just a while ago, we have been back into the family, promising to wrap up, but the wrapping up is taking longer than the actual full-length programs that we would have done over the past couple of months. And I have in studio here co-hosting with me, because we are just free-falling tonight. We are just speaking off the cuff, no prepared script. Elder Kern and Sister Onella. Again, welcome back to the studio.
Happy to be here.
And we are really on point here. What we want to do in this segment is look at the area of infidelity. And we have some startling statistics. And I was just in Port of Spain today in Trinidad here, and I was passing somewhere in the city, and I saw the mediation center. We have a lot of these mediations, and mediation now is a big thing. It's a big item. It's a high paying, very highly qualified job and responsibility. The state has a lot of them employed, and their main job, besides mediating between in terms of companies and labor issues, they also have to now mediate in marital issues. That has become the norms, and the church is not exempt, because that is the life that we have come to know, unfortunately. But the area of infidelity has two definitions. One is a breakdown in one's understanding, and by extension how his attitude towards a doctrinal position of the church. So he's called an infidel. But in terms of spousal relations, we have found it's an old understanding that there's a breakdown in the family, unfaithfulness, adulterous relationship. But I want to start talking about the area now of a situation that has shifted to infidelity, but it did not have sexual relations, intimate relations. Could that be qualified as infidelity as well?
Well, to start with, Pastor Kisto, you mentioned that infidelity has two definitions, but in both cases, it's a moving away from God.
Mm-hmm.
In both cases. And that is the foundation, the starting point to infidelity, moving away from God. If one moves away from a correct principle of doctrine, he has in essence moved away from God. If one decides to step outside of his marriage covenant and not commit that intimate relation with someone who is not his wife, but has connected himself emotionally to someone who is not, that must come under that, because he has now moved his feelings away from the one who should really be the object of his affection, and has now put that on to someone else who is not deserving of that.
So what you're saying, sorry to cut you, and I saw Onella laughing. So what you're actually saying is that, I mean this is no news. We are speaking real here. Could we say as a fact, as without much scientific evidence, that there are a lot of relations that are being formed emotionally, what we may call very slight flirting, but you cannot charge the person with being adulterous, but it is that
well from a human standpoint,
but it won't stand.
You really cannot. You see, we view things differently, God doesn't look at things the way we look at it at times. I could remember in the book of Matthew chapter 5, just from about verse 27, Christ must have been a scientist, because he was able to read the internal workings of the mind. Because he said, if a man looketh on a woman to lust after her, he committed adultery with her already in his heart. And he is qualifying that without the physical intimacy. He's qualifying that as an adulterous relationship. So on that note, ministers, we have the authority to look on situations and to see where a brother or a sister is stepping out line and say, listen, hey, pull back, because you're already in something here that could really end in disaster. You see, sin really doesn't start with the act. It starts in the mind.
That's right.
And therefore, there is where we need to stop it too. I know this all too well.
Okay. So could
Don't
we
ask me how, but I know.
So could we say, people, that right now there's not only just a high incidence of it, but that it is one of those last day sins. What I really want to ask is that, just before the children of Israel crossed over into Jordan, you remember that story, right?
Boy.
Just before, one of the sins, I remember that Jordan separated them from the promised
That's
land,
right.
which is typologically represented our trek now just before we enter. You notice what even the harshness of Balaam could not get them to sin.
Yeah.
The threats of Balak, but these Moabitish women, beautiful women, were brought into the camp at that time, and that is significant. So it tells us that just before we cross over into the promised land, that will be our last day sin. And it tells us as brothers, as men, even women as well, Satan is not leaving anybody, nobody, and I say this categorically, nobody should feel that they're exempt. It doesn't matter what your upbringing is. You can get one emotional shake-up at home.
I'm telling
Trust
you.
me. And you find yourself confiding in Elder Kern, and that is where it begins. All to the
right.
dismay of Onella. She wouldn't let that go on for long at all. Yeah? Viewers, she wouldn't let this go on for long.
I thank God for His word, because His word is my defense in all things. You know, you always bring back memories, Brother Kisto, way back when I was a wee little one, which wasn't very long.
Yeah.
And you shared a presentation called Undue Familiarity. That is the exact term used by the servant of the Lord. It's found in Testimonies, but you could also get it in manuscript releases 17, I think. Either 17 or 3, one or the other. Where it talks about those undue actions that could lead to the destination of, breaking the marriage covenant. Infidelity in its full-blown way. And that is the inappropriate looks, touches, suggestive actions. Those things, though platonic, as Brother Kern said, these emotional connections can cause more damage than the physical. Because some people, the college experience in the United States, they meet somebody in a club one night and the next day But when you form an emotional bond with someone, it does more damage, because it has you thinking about splitting your bank account, how I could sever our assets. It has you building castles with that other person. And all you would need now is for Satan to provide the opportunity for you to break your marriage covenant. And on the whole thought of infidelity, God's word is there to shield us. Men, don't find yourself in the company of other women who have extreme situations that they're dealing with in the home. And they come and they say, Pastor, my husband is doing this, Pastor. And you find every week they're pulling Pastor aside for half an hour. I just come and say, no, Brother Kern. I will tell Brother Kisto the same thing. I would tell Ella Leach, Ella Barnett, whoever you are. I would say, listen, I understand that this person might be connected to you, and there may not be anything going on whatsoever, but you have to shun the appearance of evil for the sake of your ministry, for the sake of that person, because in her time of weakness, confiding in you, and vice versa, if it is, a man was confiding in another woman, you would find yourself becoming closer and closer to this person, because here this person listening to you. Why my husband can't be like that? And then all of a sudden it goes with a handshake and then a hug. And we are human beings. We are socially inclined. And these are the things that we should shun, because when it reaches to the end game, then there's a whole other situation.
Okay, so this is a very, very serious. I don't want to lessen the gravity of this
Not at all.
this particular theme. It is very serious, very serious. In fact, when you form an emotional connection with someone who is not your spouse,
Mhm.
it is very hard to break.
Yes.
And what usually happens is this: that new person is like a brand new toy, and you long to play with that toy, to experience that toy, to discover all the new parts of that toy, to see what it can do.
What an
So-
analogy.
Yeah. So you become attached to that thing.
It takes all your attention.
Yes. And before you know it, this is what happens there. Look at what happens. You start to compare that person with your wife or your husband. You start to look at the things that your wife or your husband will do
Or not do.
versus what that person does
Yeah,
for you.
yeah.
And it brings a real breakdown in the relationship until it forms a chasm, a wide gap that is very, very hard to bridge
Yeah.
now. So don't start this thing at all. One of the things that I usually do, especially when sisters come to me, if there is someone that I do not know, I always talk about my wife. I talk about my wife. That is
Doesn't make me
a
very
subtle
popular.
way of defending myself, because when sisters know, but this man is married, boy, they can either do two things.
Some
They
of
back
them.
off,
Some of
or they
them.
become the more aggressive.
Determined.
and therefore it will be a clear sign for me
Yeah.
to hand you over to somebody else
Yeah.
now.
But most likely, I know.
But
but
that's
you
right.
know, as much I know, we can talk about this for a while, but I want to look at now the healing aspect.
That's
Yes.
important also.
Is there because I mean, listen, my dear people, viewers, this is no joke we're dealing with. Every man that is a man is tempted in that area. Don't
That's
play,
right.
don't play
That-
holier
that's
than
right,
me.
that's right.
You see, because this, am I right?
You-
Definitely.
Tempted in that area, especially if you're a leader.
More so as a leader,
And,
definitely.
you know, while we could, you know, because listen, we are up against the prince of darkness.
Oh, okay.
This is not just a clumsy imposture. This is real,
right.
a real game, a real battle for the mind to throw you off and destroy the flock. So we have strong men. Sorry, as Samson. He got bowled over. So it is no news. So therefore, we need to see if there is recovery. Now, I think the church is now growing to a level of acceptance of the person that fell into one of those relations, adulterous or whatever it is. But there could be two ways. There are two trenches. They could lightly esteem it and cause the church much pain, or they could now brandish the person and destroy the individual. But we want to see, or I am saying, I did a study on this some years ago, recovering from infidelity. And we need to, as leaders now, to talk to this issue, because we need to help people to understand that there is recovery. The church must be educated that it is a sin as well. It is one of those sins that more emphasis is paid because of what marriage means in the Godhead context.
That's right.
But we want to talk about recovery. There are many people hurting. One of the options that is used very quickly is to remove and replace.
Bolt out.
Yeah.
Just bolt.
So let's talk about that.
Elakisto, that this is a very important aspect of the whole thing of infidelity. And as you said, men, do not be fooled, because we are not stronger than Samson. You're not more valiant than David, and you're not wiser than Solomon.
Yeah.
And all of these men fell into very deep and dark pits, right? Having, plurality of women and involving what have you.
Yes.
They all fell. Our position here and our stand has to be by the grace of God. Has to be by the grace of God. The Bible is replete with many testimonies and different solutions to really, really recover from that ditch. You can recover. And I think I could only sum this up in one word: forgiveness.
Yes.
If you love the man or you love the woman, that love must extend beyond him. When you see him standing in the wrong, it must reach that far. That is the love of God.
So you're saying therefore that when a woman takes a man, and vice versa, it is until the death.
Of course, that is what the marriage
which
vow entails.
includes that there is the possibility that the man could lose his way first from God and then have this separation. We are saying tonight that in the recovery act, forgiveness is the key.
That is the key.
Amen.
That is the key. It
I
is
have to agree
forgiveness.
with
You see, the thing is, we want, and especially viewers, don't be ill-advised when you are getting into a marriage with another human being. There are many possibilities.
Right.
Possibilities for good and possibilities also for ill. Right? We must understand that. Our position in the marriage, when two people come together, is to really, really promote the kingdom of God and strengthen each other. That's what we are there for. So our marriage should not be a Disneyland marriage. It shouldn't be a fairy tale, no castle building. We want to be as real as we possibly can. And that's why the series on marriage, which has gone before, we should have really taken that seriously, because there were some things being brought out there to really counsel and guide one who, before marriage and even while married, to keep the marriage tight. So in the instance of infidelity, the first thing we must understand is that when you are married, that first circle, you, your husband, your wife, and God alone. Alone. And if you really can't solve it in that little circle there, then the Bible provides the correct forum to really set it back on track. Our first inclination or impulse should not be to go to the court. The attorneys are making too much money right now settling divorces. That should not be our first recourse at all. In fact, Paul tells us, "Dear any of you having a matter, go before the law to the unjust and not before the saints. Know ye not that he shall judge the world?" So we have to take the correct course, not until we have exhausted all of these avenues.
So let us talk about this idea now, because it is so broad. Our first option should not be to replace.
No.
Because we could be looking at the letter of the law. The Bible says the only reason for divorce is adultery. So therefore, I got you now, it's time to go. That the man may not be an adulterer.
That's a very important point.
Right.
That's critically
It may not be an
important. That's
adultery,
right.
may not be chronic, the whole idea of so on. So we had this beloved sister whose husband contracted the virus, the HIV. And she slept with him on that married bed until he passed away. That was very noble. So I want to put this to you now in a real, because we want to talk real case study stuff, right? Kern falls into adultery, not
God
pronouncing, not prophesying, my dear people, not prophesying.
For his sake.
But I know words have power. But falls into adultery. Practically, whether he was warned, whether he walked into it, whether unknowingly he was engendered there, what you think would be some of your what would you do in terms of, because you want to recover? Let me ask you first, you will want to recover him.
So no blueprint answer.
No, I want Onala's heart, because you vowed until the death. You vowed that in better or for worse, and as it worse, and I can have to one. Adultery or infidelity is likened unto the loss of a loved one.
Yes.
It is so deep. A part of you is gone. So while you are recovering, you want to recover him. What would be some of the steps, without using the blueprint, but giving us real Onala? Yeah.
Well, if I can't use the blueprint and give a general by the book response, I'm compelled to say that I think I know myself pretty well. I know myself in the realm of planning and sketching out my life and wanting it to go a particular way by God's grace. I could say for us, our experience has been one where I thank God that we had our rockiest moments before we got married. There were a lot of dark forces surrounding this union from the inception, and I had more than enough reason to go in the next direction. But I personally saw a minister of God seeking God, seeking progress, seeking salvation. And I saw entities seeking to break that down because, you know, they caught you in a particular act. So it's like, now I have you, I can strip you of your post, I can strip you of your duties, I can strip you of your you know, all the things that God has placed in you. And at that moment, I said to myself, Nella, you have the option to not enter into this marriage with this young man. Or if you do, forgive and move forward. And true forgiveness, I have experienced in my life to be something that is freedom based. When you truly forgive, you don't hold on and you do not drudge up and constantly throw back. Because to do that is to say you never forgave in the first place. So therefore, I personally wish that it never happens to me now. Because before marriage and in marriage, two very distinct things. Because if it were to happen to me now, having that foundation set, having all those examples and having all those breakthroughs, you know, he still finds himself in that circumstance. I joke and I say, well, just make sure when you do that, you're willing to give up what you have now. You know, so make sure that if that is where you find yourself, that it means that you're willing to give up what you have now. And that tends to straighten him up a bit because he's always saying, I am the choice. And he made a good choice. So I remind him of that good choice.
You know, but being
Still
real,
begging.
I would think, let's, in the case of a man who is,
Ask him what he would do.
I comment him. Yeah, the man who has found himself in that way, I think, especially if it is a one-off situation, one-off meaning one person, I think he would want his spouse to be there as his partner still, as his coach. So if I were a woman and that happened to my husband, I would want to be there. I was like, for example, if a man is chronically involved in pornography, he hides until he's caught. His wife suspected it, but she saw him red-handed. I would want my husband, if I were a woman, to be recovered. So therefore, I must now be able to coach him. Listen, what causes this to go on with you? You know, he must feel my trust to the extent
So that he
where,
doesn't feel more shame.
I'm not against you. I am here to protect you. Yeah, it is already out in the open, but listen, I will still stand with you. I will walk the streets with you. You know, the shame is there, but you're my husband, you're my wife, etc. So that person should be telling their spouse, listen, what causes this to happen to you? When does it come on? Listen, if you get the feeling, the inclination, give that kind of thing, give me a call. And same with adultery. The word of God doesn't sanction adultery, but it doesn't sanction as well the throwing out of the individual as soon as the act. I mean, it is a pain, but as you said, when you forgive, that weight is released, and you're able now to help. And I think many couples are going through that area of those scars not being removed, not because the husband continues or the wife continues, but they have not forgiven and they are not willing to go that extra mile. So to the Christian person, our counsel tonight is, it is unfortunate, it is not God's ideal, but God could still turn it around. Because the perfect marriage is the one that went through problems, not the one that has no problems or never had. Yeah,
that marriage doesn't exist at all. Because
yeah. Fairy
that
tales.
marriage doesn't exist. And you know, like, so I cannot imagine my wife going in that direction at all. That let me say this, that will never happen to her. That will never happen to her. And I'm prophesying here now. I'm prophesying that will never happen to her. However, if, for conversation's sake, if that ever happened, I know my wife and I love her dearly. I will take my wife back as though nothing has ever happened.
The record here before the world.
Yes, and I mean that because I mean that. I'll tell you why. I know my wife. I know my
So
wife.
something had to be wrong for
And
that.
therefore, that is not something that is not her behavior. That is not in her character to do something like that. I would question myself closely what I have done, not what she has done. What have I done to cause my wife to be so detached from me, to be joined? And that's one of the first questions that one should ask himself or herself when dealing with a case. What have I done? What are the things that I have done to contribute to this situation? And if we really look at this thing in light of the character of God in terms of forgiveness, we always view forgiveness as God, forgiving us, because if we don't ask for forgiveness, God is going to do something to us. He has something against us. We have done this wrong, and now he has something in his back pocket against us. That is not so at all. It is the sinner who has the hardness against God, and to release the sinner, God says, listen, you ask for forgiveness because that will free you. It doesn't change me. God is all right, and he will always be all right even if you do wrong.
Perfect.
That's right. And therefore that must be our position. If we know where we stand with God, and we see somebody, our spouse going in that direction, our position should be like God. It is she or he has the hardness. I don't have that hardness against them. So our way of forgiveness is not really to really release my feelings, though you might be broken.
Yeah.
But it is really, forgiveness is really for the other person.
That's right.
And if we view it in that light, we will see that our broken homes, our broken marriages really could be fixed from that point of view. If we realize that we really want to help, the other person who is suffering, love could go that far.
Amen.
Love could go that far.
I agree. Someone is asking me back in the back about, let us suppose, and we will just wrap up on this one here. There are many instances, rather, me being real, where there is a child as a product of an adulterous relationship, and that's a new dimension. It's one thing to go outside. Now you have a child and now not only the child, you have the child's mother. And if the child has siblings, then you have a family there. You have two house man. That's what we say colloquially here in Trinidad. I would think, and I'm just making a submission here, I know rather that the same rule applies.
Yes.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
It's difficult. You have new parameters now. You have a new game, because the man must still now own up his responsibility.
That's right.
Not because it was outside of the marriage, he will now reject, which is in the case. But I think that brings a new dimension to it, and this now brings into play serious praying with and for that person. When people come into your space with that type of bad news, it is not to be treated lightly, because there's a scar, there's an evidence of the scar. Think of the situation with Sarai and Hagar.
That's right.
She prompted it in Genesis 16, but when she saw the product of it now,
She wanted to chase her away.
she wanted to chase her. So any thoughts on that? Oh, now let me ask you, a child is now the product of this adulterous relationship, and
I believe that this would bring Christians to a level of character development that is not usually seen in Christendom. That is to say that for a married couple to experience adultery in whatever form, whether it's the wife or the husband, overcome it, forgive each other, still love each other. Sometimes couples grow even closer after these situations, and they now overcome. And then if there is the insertion of a child in the midst, I think your connection with God is the only thing that could steer you through a storm like that. Because if you for a moment dwell on what has been done and the hurt that you feel, your first recourse would be to bolt. Your first recourse would be to cut that person out of your life altogether. And most times people walk away from their Christianity because they can't deal with the guilt, they can't deal with the shame. So because the marriage covenant has brought you to a place where you have not covenanted with that person alone, but you have made a covenant with God,
That's right.
then your individual value on your Christianity will now be called into action, and not necessarily the emotional tie you share between the couple. Because when people are caught in, they experience these things. When people are married, sometimes in the early
Oh, yeah.
stages of marriage, sometimes you're married for so many years, people say, how is it even possible for you to step out? When these things happen, we can prove God to be true by overcoming it. Just like every other sin, because you break one as it says in Romans. So you break all of them. So therefore the law of God must be seen in the breaking of the adultery law. And I believe that individuals, based on their connection and their relationship with God, sometimes the situation could be so turbulent in specific cases, it would call for separation. But it must not be because you have not fought with each other, or cried with each other, prayed with each other, counseled in a multitude of brethren, because you cannot give up this sacred union that God has given you as a gift. So if those things are your values, if those things are your desires, that is your relationship with God, that is your family unit, even having an outside child, that child will be counted as yours. Because I have seen women raise children that is not their biological children, products of stepping out.
I know.
And listen, we have to salute men and women who take children under their wings who is not biologically theirs, and treat them as if they were, to the degree where the children never even knew that wasn't their biological parent.
Yeah.
You know, because they never allowed the child to be exposed. That and all would be a miracle.
Yeah.
You know, almost as good as water growing inside of a coconut. You know, it's a miracle.
Praise the Lord. You know, we can't exhaust these things, but
No.
one thing I know for sure: love covers a multitude of
That's
sins.
right.
That's right.
Forgiveness really frees you.
Yes, it
And
does.
just as with secondary virginity, there is also this secondary experience of marriage, and you hinted it
I
there,
believe that.
Ornella, that it could even be better.
That's
and,
right.
and the philosophy in Job's time that his latter day was better than his
That's right.
former.
Praise
Yeah.
the Lord.
And
Yes.
even in with adultery, infidelity, a production of godly seed through that relationship,
Amen.
God is still able to give you that freedom and that
Yes,
experience.
I
Because
believe that. I've seen it.
yeah, and the thing, and that's what Christ experienced. You
Amen.
know, when Adam and Eve gave up that relationship, it was hurting, and that's a human term. But as Elder Kern said, it never made a change in him. You know,
God
you are
is
the
the
person
same.
that changed.
Amen.
So you know, we just touched the surface. We're going to take another break. When we come back, it's just to wrap up because we can't get into the other issues. Too much for you. We can't deal with it, all right? So we're going to take a short break, come right back, start to wrap it up, talk to you on Facebook and on YouTube, and see what good news you have for us.
Amen.
Yep. Loud Christ Surge. We have been having some livid discussions. Brother Devon came out and we discussing. I think we have to continue to extend the program, and we don't want it just to be a talk shop. We want to help you all as well.
That's
That's right.
Husbands, love your wife, wives be in submission. And the temptation to step out is a real temptation. Do not
Very
live in a
real.
fantasy world. Satan wants you as a man, because men are now a dying creed.
Yes,
I mean, real
yes,
Zaka
yes.
men are a dying creed. As we were talking off air, people at my age still walking and holding hands in the street. In Kenya, and to my Kenya brethren, I hope you don't mind I'm sharing. In Kenya, I'm told by credible sources, people who are there, when two people are seen walking the streets, man and woman holding hands, people start to take up pictures, put it up on Facebook and so on, because it's a phenomenon.
Wow.
Because it is not the norms to do it. But you will see men holding hands locked like this, and they're not gay, they're not queer, but it is just culturally so. So therefore, we need to break the cycle. Our culture is the culture of heaven, and it must remain that way. So you want to greet some of our folks there. Start from the bottom, come right up. I think the bottom will be the start. We have this new person here, Hadassah.
I think
Hadassah.
she's
that's
Sister Melissa's
She
she was with
invited her.
Melissa. I think her name is Kelly, and that's her AKA. Welcome, Hadassah, and God bless you real good. So, Brother Kern and you want to go through all the rest coming up. We have the regular peoples.
Yeah, greetings from Jedias Bartholomew. Brother Colin is also saying happy Sabbath. Sister Avalon, Sister Marlene. Brother Kurt mentioned you before the program even started. He said, I bet Sister Marlene is online already.
Yeah. I want to especially welcome that young man,
Nelson.
Kamar Nelson from Ocho Rios, Jamaica. I met him for the first time when I was there earlier this year. Very, very good young man. We meet him again. Yes, yeah, we meet
I
him
hope
again.
so.
Alright, so go ahead. We have Melissa.
Yeah, I think Melissa is
She's
saying,
greeting the
saying
persons that she
good night,
invited to view as well.
yeah. Alright, so Hadassah is saying a huge learning experience for me.
Praise the Lord.
Well,
Praise
my
God.
dear sis, yes, it's really an experience. That's why it's Lord Christ Church, live the experience.
Yeah. I wonder what Jeddah is laughing at though. She's has these emojis.
Well, probably Sister Jediah should tell us.
You should tell us what you were laughing
That's
at,
what
sis.
she's laughing at.
Yeah.
Excellent, Sister Hadassah says. I don't know what she's responding to.
Chandala, my
Chandala,
girl.
happy Sabbath to
Hi,
you.
Sister Chandala.
Happy Sabbath.
Good night.
So,
my brother.
Sister Candy is saying, what drives someone to take these abusive situations? It is their upbringing. Is it their upbringing? I can't understand.
Well, let me respond to that quickly. In some instances it is.
Yes.
For example, I can speak for me. When my father was a provider, but I can't remember him standing by the sink and doing dishes. And I think that could have affected me, so that in my early years, I don't know, I now thought about it, but I cannot remember him standing by the kitchen or in the kitchen at all doing anything. And that could have been his upbringing as well. So sometimes intuitively we pick up these things. We don't know if it is right or wrong, but it is a learned behavior, and we start to do it.
Yes.
We would not have seen our father being liberal with his purse, but and mommy never complained, that's supposed. And so we think that's how it's supposed to be. So as a young man, now you start to do the same thing, and then you find out now clinically you're an abuser. You're shocked because
just to add to what you're
Yeah.
saying, Pastor, it's the same way when researchers discover that psychopaths and sociopaths and murderers. They used to torture small animals as children. They would scar themselves as children. These things that people experience in their childhood during their fundamental ages, which is the early stages, does contribute to the type of character that they develop. And abuse is subtle. Sometimes it is because of the abuse they received. Sometimes it is because family neglected them. They always alone. They always didn't have nobody for them. So when they now have a family, have a wife, have children, they find the wife shouldn't have family and anybody who could be there for them either. And it's you and me against the world. So yes, it is scientifically and emotionally proven that the atmosphere that we are surrounded with, some of us are able to break chains and overcome despite what we were surrounded by, but there are a lot of people who are unable to do that because of the lack of the connection with God and because of the overwhelming. Sometimes it's not even your fault. You were exposed to certain things as a child and they bear fruit in your adulthood.
You see, Satan is really preying
On families.
on broken homes.
That's right.
And the structure of the family is critically important, because as I listening to you here, explaining that situation,
All of
we
us can
really
look at
need
that.
to get this family thing right, because we are now passing on a legacy that will bear fruit probably in the third and fourth generation
right.
down the road, and God will have to visit that iniquity. So we really need to get the structure right. We need to get it right so that we could mend broken homes. So that, yes, Sister Candy, our upbringing has a lot, a bearing
Scars.
on the whole, the whole thing.
Scars
A
go
lot.
really deep.
Yes, a lot.
So
A lot.
Melissa is saying, you got a friend in me, Pastor Kisto. I too get very concerned when I see men, in the supermarket or
She
in
would
the
know
market
that.
alone. I also do not believe in giving men these specific items to carry in their hands. Example, eggs and
Well,
cakes
they
and
shouldn't be
boxes.
buying eggs.
Oh my
I
goodness.
don't know.
Food, I really get scared. Yeah, my thing is, I one person comes to mind. I can't share it on air here, but I'll tell you after. This person always will be doing the shopping, and it's not from a position of him being just the caring husband. He wants to manage what is shopped,
Wow.
what is
That's
bought.
entirely different.
Yeah, so he always goes to work with his market bag and have it
Wow.
there. And so I get concerned when I see that. It tells me that something is not right there. So that was my thought, Sister Melissa. But I don't have a problem with men
I see
walking with
Sister
kids.
Marlene, if we could just go back down. Sister
asked a
Marlene is saying something there. I'm not quite
You
sure.
got that right. She was agreeing.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
After,
All right,
after
you
what
got
Sister
that right,
Candy
Deborah.
asked.
All right.
okay. So Gwendolyn Seeley, we want to welcome you again. I think I saw that name last time. I can't remember. Just help me. But we want to welcome you again to the program. Samuel is saying that he had some issues with his. I saw it somewhere.
Yeah, I saw that.
Issues with his Facebook. I'm seeing as well. Melissa is thanking Nigel, our old friend, for joining.
Oh, Sister Candy, you're not a easy customer at all. Little bundle of joy sometimes, eh?
So can you all be careful what you said? Yeah?
Only Sister Candy is allowed to say things like that. Because she's my grandmother. Love you.
Yeah, scroll up, yeah, go up and let's.
Sister Evelyn,
Sister Evelyn is always on. Good to have you, Sister
so
Evelyn.
right
Hope to see you
about that.
sometime soon. Let's go up again and see if there's anybody new.
She said, send them to the Lord.
Kendrick, my friend, my brother from in my community. He's a
One of
good
the
man.
persons who was
Yeah.
requesting a part 2, and now
Informative
you
topics.
have part 3.
Yeah, we are part 3. Michelle Gilbert Dunton, sorry, I knew her many years. Good to have you on as usual. Candy is saying, no, I don't agree that the person should ask themselves what they have done to cause this situation. This is a way to take blame for the wrong action of someone. It may be a form of abuse.
So before that, she is saying, you can't understand how women think, Pastor. Coaching your husband after infidelity, which woman can do that?
Many have.
But listen, this would really test
Yeah, it's
it will test our
Test your
metal.
matter.
It will test our metal.
this is where it is, you know.
Yes, it
Yeah.
will test your metal really, really strongly.
Yeah.
To see
But if we were
what
to
metal you are made up
clarify,
of.
you want to clarify the point that Sister Candy is making, because I believe the issue is not looking at how you caused the situation, but relatively,
Yeah, it's not cause,
what
but
you have
it's
contributed
because I don't think any woman or any man sets out
to make
to
this
cause their spouse
to cheat.
to cheat or to really step outside. You don't set your mind to do that.
Look at this
However, there are things, and we cannot deny this. There are some things that we would need to correct in our relationships,
So as to not contribute
which can
to-
be very, very destructive in its nature. It may not be physically violent, but it can be destructive, as we were discussing.
Yes.
So these non-violent things, sometimes, before I came here, I read an article from a professional source, of course, and they were talking about intimacy, what not having that intimacy with each other, what it can do to a marriage, and what have you. And I must agree, the professionals, they got it right.
They deal
They
with the cases every
really
day.
got it right, because they are seeing an increase in the divorce rate and so on. And I was looking at some stats, and my friends, listen, the divorce rate in terms of Christendom among men of the cloth, churchmen, leaders, it is too high to even mention on this program here. Too high, right, in comparison to the non-born again. Too high to mention. This tells me that Satan is really plunging an attack. That is what it tells me. It doesn't tell me, well, we know that, the men are at a low premium. We know that. But it tells me where Satan is launching his attack. That is what it tells me, because the family can do great damage to God's kingdom, to Satan's kingdom.
That's right.
And therefore he's really putting his all there. So Sister Candy, don't worry, we will talk, man.
We'll look at that. Somebody was before that, Jediah. So Candy made a very good point again. I agree with Sister Nella. Your connection with God, because of the child needs to be protected and should not have to be involved. Very, very good. Jediah says, so true. I guess you responded to Candy. Forgiveness and your connection with God is the key to overcome a situation. I tell you, you need God.
Sister Avalon is saying, thank God he doesn't give us more than we can bear.
That's right.
So in every
That's very
situation, I
important.
thank God for his grace for us to be overcomers by his strength.
That's
And this
right.
calls for overcoming more so than any one of us could ever
Yeah.
hope to endure, because to overcome a situation like this really would prove
Yeah.
the type of character development taking place in the individual.
That's right. Brother Paul Miller out there in the Bahamas, he does some YouTube videos very, very regular. I think every day almost. Brother Paul, welcome and thanks so much for joining us. Dreeny, and if you all remember Sister Andreen, I think she was in Barbados, was she? Anyway, she's
So many people with
yeah, Sister Andreen, good
So
to
many
have
people
you.
to meet. She's just saying God bless us. And
Yeah.
then we have couples
Yeah,
should
pray.
follow the golden rules. Do unto others as you will have them do unto you. Things will be so much better.
I'm
in
seeing
the
someone by
marriage.
the name of Nichols. I'm not.
Let's go back up. I'm seeing that person there with that Rodney joint.
Nicholas.
That's Zoe.
That's not Nicholas.
That's Zoe.
So,
Welcome,
Nicholas.
Sister Zoe.
Nicholas, spelled with 2 L's.
Yeah, that's Sister Zoe, there, Brother Devon. Yeah,
Zoe from Jamaica.
it's from Jamaica.
Oh.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. Hi, Zoe and Levon.
Who's VMO?
I don't know. So we're going up.
Welcome.
As well. Avalon says she appreciates this program. Avalon says again, if couples should follow the golden rule, do unto others as you will have them do unto you, things will be so much better in the marriage. Avalon has become a profound person in marriages now. I guess she's married.
Yeah,
She's married. She's married.
And I like that point. Do unto others as you would have
Yeah,
them
that's the golden rule.
do
That's the golden
unto
rule.
you. Definitely the golden rule.
And
Definitely.
yeah, Dreeny is saying happy Sabbath, and Dream.
Well, I guess when the program has been exposed to the world, we have, greetings from countries some of us can't even pronounce, and praise
thank God.
God, he has one language and that language is love. So
Amen.
pleasant Sabbath to everyone.
We want to say thanks as well to those who contribute to the broadcast, to the program, who have contributed. And a sister from New York, I don't want to call her name, also asked for our PayPal account. So we're going to get that worked
Well,
out.
we thank God very much
Yeah.
for that, because
Yeah.
it really takes, you know, more than us sitting here
Yeah.
to really get this,
To keep the lights on alone.
this- to get
To
this
keep the place
going.
cool.
Yeah,
to keep
and of
it-
course, besides that, you know, we cannot help but mention, besides us in this room here, we have a team of people,
We have a team of
offset,
people.
Working hard.
you know, behind.
Yeah.
They're working hard to really bring a real
Yeah.
nice stream to this. They too, God's blessings unto them.
So you want to say that it's a wrap from here? We had a loss. We lost one of our sisters.
Sister Drini is saying,
Yeah.
I need it. I
She
also
also
need
need
it.
it.
I
Okay.
guess she's saying that right after you spoke about the PayPal
Oh, okay.
account, yes.
And Marlene is saying, don't remember Camp Jamaica. Now, Jamaica Camp is from the
6th.
The 6th.
Which one of
of
the elders
July.
she's talking about? Yeah.
I don't know.
I see elder singular.
6 to the 15th is Camp Jamaica, nonetheless.
I know, we're both
Sister Marlene is
there.
promoting this as the camp of the millennium.
Yes.
So, but it's going to be a beautiful camp. Jamaica is never a dull place, always an exciting place to go to. We will be there, right?
That's right.
We're going to be
We
there.
would be.
So we will try to do those streams from there. That's in the month of July. And then just before that, the 29th of June to the 4th is Camp Canada West, I think. Anyway, so that's going to be a blast as well. I'm going to be there. So you have to work out logistics to get this show live and alive to you from wherever location we are. But from all of us here, Marlene says both of us, alright? So, alright, so from all of us here, yeah.
Bragging rights.
Marlene go and sleep.
Mr. Marlene.
Gotta love her, gotta love her.
Gotta love Miles. Alright, so have a good Sabbath, everybody. We have to stop. We have to cut it down. It's going to get really late. Have a good night, and Elder Kern, Sister Onala, really a pleasure having you again co-hosting. And we're going to continue this family discussion longer than we probably could imagine.
That's all right.
And we're taking it outside as well. I'm told by the director, producer, we're going to take it outside. We're going to have an outside location where we wrap it up in a real fine style. A location to be announced very,
That's
very
right.
soon.
So the finale, when it comes, it's going to be a big one.
Gonna
So
be huge.
you need to be tuned in.
Get your questions ready, because
Yeah,
on the
that's
topic
gonna
of
be
family, some of us might have individual situations. You don't have to make it public, but
Yeah.
the questions can be raised so they can be addressed with the word of God, so that we
And
could all.
yeah, because that's the
learn
real
and grow.
focus of this broadcast. It's not
Definitely.
just for us to get some airtime to just air out. We really want to help.
Yeah. And
We
it's
really
going to be a
want to
long
help.
program, probably
Yeah.
a 2-hour
Yeah, it's
marathon,
gonna be
a
it's gonna be
filibuster.
long- We really want to help. So,
So have a good night, folks, and God bless you real good. We have a big day tomorrow at our ministry in Port of Spain. Just bragging. We have a big baby dedication.
Praise the Lord.
Praise
Sister
God.
Daz, brand new baby.
Girl.
Baby girl. She broke tradition with the Stewarts. Stewarts normally make boys. And she broke tradition. She brought a beautiful,
she's a Bartholomew now, right?
Kamaya.
That's
Creating her
right.
own traditions.
Yeah. So God bless. See you all tomorrow. See you all next week. See you all in the week.
Praise the Lord.
Praise
Yeah.
God.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
In Christ alone, my hope is found. He is my light, my strength, my song. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of Ooh.